Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's UDC Library webinar, Where Do I Find the Information I Need? My name is Megan Kowalski. I'm the Outreach and Reference Librarian, and I will be handling the logistics for today's session. Today's session will be presented by my colleague, Kathy Meals. We will have time for questions at the end, both recorded and unrecorded. But if at any time you have a question, please don't hesitate to put that in the chat. This session is being recorded and we will have it on our YouTube page by the end of today, and we'll send a link to that to all registrants. So thank you for joining us today, and take it away, Kathy.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, everybody. Let's get started. So as Megan said, this is Where Do I Find the Information I Need? And my name is Kathy Meals. So our agenda for today. So in school, in doing research and just in daily life, we come across a lot of information. And information exists in many varieties. Each kind is created in a unique way, exists in a unique format, it serves different purposes, and meets different needs for us. There are a lot of places, an overwhelming number of places really, where we can find information, including in the library and online. So today we're going to talk about where to look to find the information we need. But where we look depends in part on what we need the information for and what questions we want it to answer for us. Knowing that will help us figure out where to look and do research more efficiently. So first we'll talk about the different types of information that are available to us, and then we'll discuss how we figure out what types of information we need. Then we'll discuss our recommendations for specific places to look for certain kinds of information. So first, let's talk about what kinds of information are available to us in the first place. As I mentioned, different types of information are published or shared in different ways, have different intended audiences and different authors, and we use them for particular purposes and in particular contexts. They have unique characteristics and contributions to our learning. So here are some common types of information we encounter. So archives of historical materials, audio and video, such as radio, podcasts, TV, or film for news, entertainment, and more. Books, both fiction and nonfiction, for general entertainment or for learning or for scholarly purposes. Data and statistics. Government information from city, state, federal, and international government organizations. News or magazine articles. Reports and analysis from policy or political organizations. Scholarly or peer-reviewed articles, something we often use in schoolwork, and we'll talk about in a little bit in more depth. Social media posts and websites of all different kinds. So you can see there's a lot out there. And importantly for what we're discussing today, where we look for information often depends on what kind of information we're looking for. So that was a quick discussion of what kinds of information there are. Before we start thinking about where to look for information, we should also think about what it is we need information to do for us. I promise we will get to specific places to look, but figuring all of this out first before we start searching for information helps save us time by pointing us in the right direction and making it more likely that we'll find high quality information that meets our goals. What information we need depends on many factors, such as what we're trying to accomplish and who we'll be sharing the information with. So as an example of what I mean, we would use different information for personal tasks like finding a new doctor or figuring out what kind of phone to buy than we would for a research paper for class or for explaining a topic that's brand new to someone versus having a conversation with an expert. So here are some questions we can ask ourselves to figure out what we need. So first, what is the purpose of the research? So perhaps we're trying to expand our personal knowledge about a topic, or perhaps we're working on a research assignment for school, like a paper or presentation or podcast. So we need to think about what is the ultimate goal or end product of the research. Related to that, who is our audience? Are we sharing our research with a professor or an expert in the field that we're researching? Are we sharing our research with family or friends? Is this research for our own personal use? if we're working on a school assignment, what are the instructions in the assignment about the types of sources we can use? Often assignments will set out specific types of information to use or not use. And to successfully complete an assignment, we need to follow those guidelines. How much do we need to know? Do we need a single fact, a 10-page paper's worth of facts, something in between? What is the depth of expertise that we have to demonstrate in our research? If we need a single fact, maybe an encyclopedia or a similar source would work for us. If we need more, we're going to need multiple sources, including some that go into more depth. And then lastly, whose perspectives or what evidence do we need? Do you need facts? Do you need opinions? Do we need something else? Do we need research studies? Do we need primary sources or secondary sources? And our understanding in research is really strengthened by having multiple perspectives or approaches to a topic. So we might need to think about whose views we need to know, multiple people's or perspectives. So taking a moment to reflect on these questions before we start researching helps us decide where to look, what we need to look for, and ultimately helps us know when we've found what we need. So between UDC library resources, the internet, and all the other places where information exists, there are tons and tons and tons of places where we can go to look for information. But where should we start? And where specifically should we go for certain kinds of information? Let's focus today on the most commonly used types for college assignments. So first, where can we find books? This would include both print and ebooks, electronic books. And books can range a lot. They can range from entertainment, fiction, to extremely in-depth information and analysis of an issue, often fact-check or written by experts who deeply study the topic. Fiction books and books for a general audience are most commonly found at bookstores and at public libraries, like the DC Public Library. And of course, the UDC library has lots of books. But as a university library, our book collection is focused on more in-depth, research-heavy, scholarly books related to the academic programs here at UDC and are meant to support the UDC community's academic work, scholarly work, and so forth. And remember that as members of the UDC community, we have access not only to the books here at UDC, but also the book collections of the libraries at 8 other local universities that we share resources with through the Washington Research Library Consortium, also called WRLC. That's literally millions more books than we have here at UDC ourselves. So I'm going to go to a web browser in just a second to show you the best way to search for books available through the UDC library. So the best way to look for books available through the UDC library is through UDC Search, the search bar at the top of the library's website. So here we can enter the title of a specific book we might be looking for, the name of a specific author, or keywords that express the concepts we're looking for. So say we're looking for books on gentrification here in DC. We can type gentrification DC into the search bar, hit go on the right side of the bar. And then on the search results page, if we're looking for books specifically, we're going to want to use the resource type filter for books to limit our search just to books. So let me click that and click Apply Filters. And here we have our search results, both ebooks, print books, both available at UDC and those available through our consortium partners. Of course, you can also browse physical books in the library now that our physical books are back. They are all organized by subject, so you'll find books on the same topic right near each other. And if you need a little direction, finding those books, can always ask a member of the library staff. All right, next, where do we find scholarly articles? So we typically use scholarly articles, which are often also called peer-reviewed articles or academic journal articles, in an academic context. So for academic assignments and for scholarly work. And these are where we'll find research and analysis with people with formal credentials, scholars and experts who focus on a particular topic. Increasingly, there's a number of scholarly articles available for free online, including through Google Scholar, but still the main place to search for and find them is through databases with scholarly articles that the library subscribes to. In general, access to scholarly information is very expensive. So the library pays for subscriptions to databases so that the UDC community has access to all of these materials. So let's go back to our web browser. So you can search for articles in the UDC search bar that we just searched for books in. But if you know you're looking for scholarly articles specifically, you might want to go to the A to Z resource list, which is linked underneath the search bar. So on the A to Z resource list, this is where you'll find the dozens of databases that the UDC community has access to through the library subscriptions. But there are lots and lots of them. So where to start? For interdisciplinary or general research, multi-subject databases like Academic Search Premier, listed here under A, and ProQuest Multiple Database Search, which is listed under P, these are all alphabetical, are two good places to start. And these databases have resources on a wide range of topics, and both have a lot of scholarly articles. But for research that's more specific to a major or discipline, we might consider other databases that are focusing on specific subjects, such as nursing or business or engineering. So how do we find those? On the A to Z resource list, there is an option to find databases by subject to narrow down our options. And it's a drop-down menu that's second from the left. If I click on that drop-down menu, I have many options to narrow my search for databases by particular topics. So for example, if I want to look for databases about education that focus on education, I can scroll down to education, click on that. I will click the blue search button at the right-hand side of the screen. And you'll see that I have 10 databases listed, including this list in a yellow box that's labeled best bets. These are our recommended databases for where to start if you're looking for stuff specific to education. Okay. So next, where do we find news or magazine articles? So news or magazine articles give us current information, helping us understand things that are happening right now. So they're often more aimed at a general audience more than the really specific narrow audiences that most scholarly journals target. So they may explain the concepts and topics that we're studying in clearer or more accessible language than scholarly articles. And they usually have been through some kind of editing or vetting process before they're published. So we do still find and read news or magazines in print, but a lot of this type of information is found online, often through individual publications' websites, like WashingtonPost.com. We can often access and read those articles online through those sites, but many online publications do require subscriptions or payment. When we encounter this, we can look in the article databases that the library subscribes to for news and magazine articles, because remember, the library has purchased subscriptions to databases to help us as members of the UDC community have access to information. So where specifically though? So if you know you want to read a particular publication, I'm going to go back to the library website now, back to the main homepage. You know you want a particular publication, probably the quickest way to do that is to search the name of the publication on the UDC search bar on the main library homepage. So for example, if we want to read the New York Times, we can type New York Times into the search bar. I'm going to put it in quotation marks to make sure I find all of those three words right next to each other. Click go. And I will find that in my search results. Right here at the top. Another option for finding specific publications is the journal search option that's at the top of the screen. If you click on that, you can search for publications. These would include scholarly publications as well here. And we can search them by name in this search bar. So we have options for New York Times, or we can also browse publications by category using the options on the left-hand side of the screen. So in terms of databases where we can find news and magazine articles, the library's Finding Articles Help Guide has a list of databases that we recommend for searching for news articles. And here is the link to that. On the left sidebar of the Finding Articles Help Guide, there is an option for newspaper articles. And we have a set of recommended databases for news articles. So next, where do we find data or statistics? Data and statistics give us information on real world happenings and trends and evidence of trends. So we can use them as evidence for an opinion or an argument, or to help us understand real world phenomena. And data and statistics can be created by lots of people in lots of different ways. Governments, non-governmental organizations, and researchers all collect data, and they might collect it from people or through experiments or through surveys or through other forms of research. Data and statistics are often published by the creators of the data, but there are some great websites that collect sets of data so that researchers can access them more easily. So one great place to start if you're looking for data is the library's Data and Statistics Research Guide. So here's the link. I'm going to click on it and show you. And here we have links to big collections of data sets, including Google Dataset Search, Social Explorer, a few of other options as well. And we have links to recommended resources for DC data and statistics, DC focused data, as well as US government data. And then we also have sources of statistics by subject area. So if you click on by topic on the left sidebar of the page, we have data sets or resources for data on many different topics, such as business, health, political science, social science, education. We have a whole lengthy list here. So this is a good place to start if you're looking for data, especially by topic. So next, where do we find government information? So government agencies, local, national, international, often produce a lot of information that can be helpful in our research, reports, news, data, policy analysis, and stuff like that. A lot of this information, though definitely not everything, is available online. And it's important to help us understand the history, day-to-day functions, the policies, and planning of government. There is no one place to go for all government information. So usually going directly to the government agencies whose work we're interested in is the best way to find information. But we know government's complicated, and we might not know at first who's responsible for the issues we're interested in, and so we might not know where to start then. So that's why we created the Government Information Research Guide on the library website. And on this guide, there are links to databases with government information, collections of government data, links to individual agencies, and much, much more. You can see some of these options over on the left sidebar. So for example, we click on government agencies, we see both the definition of government agencies and links to some of the major agencies of the federal government that might help us direct us to government information. So another way to find government information online, we have a nifty little Google trick. So if you know you want information from government agencies, you can limit your search results to government websites by putting cite::.gov in the search bar along with your search terms. So that way you'll only get search results for websites that end in .gov, so government websites. So say we're looking for government policy information about early childhood education practices. So we could search Google for early childhood education. Then I'm going to add cite::.gov, run my search. And then all of my results here are from .gov websites. We have the top one is the Office of the State Superintendent of Education for DC. If you scroll down further, we have some from Centers for Disease Control, the Education Workforce Committee of the House of Representatives, U.S. Department of Education, and so forth. And the last thing to talk about today is the library's research guides. So we have guides with specific recommended resources for every major at UDC, as well as lots of other topics in interdisciplinary areas of study. So you can see those on the research guides page. This is also available under quick links on the library's homepage in the bottom left corner of the homepage. And you can see here we have quite a long list of guides. So just to show you what the guides look like, let's take a quick look at the psychology guide. So here on the first page, we have links to other guides on related subjects, as well as our general help guides on how to find and cite resources. On the left side, if I click on articles, this will take me to a list of recommended databases for this subject area, as well as recommended journals. We also have recommended books with information both on where to look if you're physically browsing for books, and some recommended books to get you started, mostly ebooks. And under websites, we have a list of recommended web resources, relevant organizations, or other resources available online. So take a look at the guides for your major or the guides related to the subjects of the classes you're taking if you're looking for specific recommendations on where to go. And that is all I have for a formal presentation today. I hope this was useful, and we can take questions both about anything we've discussed today or maybe any specific types of information you're looking for.
Thank you so much, Kathy. It's, always a good reminder to see all the different ways we can get access to this kind of information. So as she mentioned, we will have time for questions now, or if you prefer, I can stop the recording in a minute to see if anyone would prefer to ask the questions unrecorded. We have one more webinar in our fall series on at the start of November, I believe. So keep an eye out for that. If you are interested in attending, you can sign up through the library's website. Not seeing any questions coming in, I am going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thanks for attending today.